So we're going to go over a little vocabulary to understand what we're talking about, and then jump into the fun part, of course, which is actually hearing and reacting to the music, the harmony, putting them together. First of all, I just want you to understand the difference between a couple things. Our scale is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's what we went over while we were studying how to write melodies, right? Basically, out of these 7 notes, and why do I say 7 even though they're 8?
Because one repeats.
One repeats, right? And actually, they all repeat. Do, re,
Oh,
mi,
yeah.
fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re. They all repeat. But if we're going to look at the basic scale here like this, we start on do, we end on do, and especially as far as harmony goes, it's basically the same note. There's some differences because of, sounds higher or lower, and we'll talk about that. But in general, we consider it the same note. So do would be our first note, right? First note in the scale. So we say scale degree number 1. Scale degree 2 is re. Mi is 3. Fa is 4. You get the picture, right? This is pretty easy, right? Sol is 5. La is 6. Ti is 7. Maybe I'll just spread it out a little bit here so we can see it. It'd be nice if it was all, and maybe we can put it all in one line. Let's see. Let me go back and just make it smaller. In do, we're back to 1. So, can everybody still see that? Kind of like to have it on one line. Is that still okay? So does that make sense? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Now, it's pretty easy to remember, I think, that do is scale degree number 1. Pretty easy, okay? But if you can memorize these, if you know where they are, it's not too hard to get. But it will help you in some ways to know what is the first note. And the other one that's really important, that's right in the middle, is 5. And again, actually the one that's right in the middle is 4.5. So we'll talk about that a little later. But for musical reasons, 5, sol, as we've said, is the one that's right in the middle. So this one is super important. So you want to remember sol, okay? Once again, quick reminder, what are the 3 most important notes out of this scale?
Do, mi, sol.
Do, mi, so, okay? And there are actual physical reasons for that, which we won't talk about too much, but every time you sing do, you'll also hear a mi and a sol in there. And we'll just mention that quickly. But the main thing to remember, and I think hopefully by now, after last class, we've got it memorized. Do, mi, sol. Got to memorize that. That is the most important 3. And then, of course, it's repeated up here. Do, mi, so, do, mi, so, do. You can keep going. Do, so, mi, do, so, mi, do. You can go in either direction, right? For harmony purposes, even though the order we put in is important, we'll talk about that. But for harmony purposes, it's all pretty much the same wherever you put it. It has pretty much the same function, we call it. All right, next of all, we'll talk about intervals. And intervals is either the space between notes. I better put distance, that's better, sorry. Distance between 2 notes. Between 2 notes. Or the 2 notes sounded together. So for example, if I went from do to re, if I said do, re, that would be an interval. But also, if I had 2 notes happening at the same time, if do and re are happening at the same time, then if there's 2 notes, we still call that an interval. There's a distance between those 2 notes, okay? And remember, the most basic interval is a unison, right? Unison means one person is singing one note and the other person is singing the exact same note. Unison, okay? Then the next one would be a second. That would be like, for example, do and re together. Then the next one is a third, fourth, etc., fifth, sixth, seventh, and finally, one that we talked about, instead of saying eighth, we say octave. And the reason why is there is a special relationship. Do you remember what happens with the octave? What happens at the octave?
Kind of like unison, or it sounds like the same note.
Like unison, sounds like the same note because it is the same note. So in a way, so let's get back and look at that. I'm going to pull out from last time. Let's take a look at our intervals. Okay. All right, everyone able to see that okay? Okay, so this first one is a unison. And then to go from do to re, that's a second. From do to mi is a third. Do to fa is a fourth. And do to sol is a fifth, etc. Okay? So let's just listen to them one more time. This review. No, we don't want to start there. We want to start measure 2. Okay. Unison. Second, close. Third, harmonious. Fourth and fifth is open. Fourth and fifth, open. And then sixth, we said a sixth is basically the same as a third, and we showed you why. So here we have do and la. But if we put do on the other side, then we have la and do. So they have the same sound. That's one of the things you learn about harmony. You can put it in different orders, but it's basically the same thing. So a sixth is basically the same as a third. We learned that last time. Measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here's measure 7. Playing this sixth here. And then what is this one here?
Seventh.
Seventh, yep. And it's almost an octave. We're not all 8 notes yet. This is the 7th. And as we said last time, the 7th can have a rather jarring sound. Right? It depends on what kind of music you're used to, but it's definitely something that kind of rubs. That's one of the words we use in music. And it is one of the words, we'll talk about that tonight. We use that word rub because sometimes rubbing can be a good thing. You ever got a back rub when you needed it from a friend, right? Rubbing can be a good thing, but not too much, right? That's the idea. Like, I don't know. I was hitting myself in the kidneys the other day. There's some exercise where you hit yourself in the kidneys. Is it good to get hit in the kidneys? It depends on how hard, right? So if it's just enough to wake you up and get you moving, perfect, right? But if somebody slugs you there, that's not what you're looking for. So one of the idea of this rub, as we say in music, is how hard does it hit us and how does it make us feel? As we said, feelings are not the most important things, but first comes the knowledge. So whatever our song is about, sometimes you might be handling a subject where you want, and we mentioned, for example, the death of Jesus, something like that, where it's just hard to describe the anguish. There might be a time that this might be worked in, right? This definitely doesn't exactly sound like, oh, happy, joy, joy. But there might be a place for it. That's all we're saying as we go through all of these possibilities. So we said that a 7th is like a second, because if you take the do and the ti and then put it right next to each other, put the do on top instead, then you can see why there's that rub, because these are actually notes that are really close together. Very close, right? And as we said, in harmony, usually close, too close anyway, bothers us in general, or it gets a really strong emotional reaction, right? Now, finally, right here, we have the octave. And as we've said, the thing that happens when you get to the octave is now you are actually singing the same note, right? So we've gone from do to do. And it kind of sounds like a stronger version of unison. In general, you listen to that, most people would say that's one note, right? It's almost kind of hard to catch the difference between that and one note because it is the same note. So let's just listen to everything from the beginning again. Okay, unison, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, which is same as a third, seventh, same as a second, and octave. Okay? And those are intervals, the distance between two notes. And we spent some time last time just asking how it feels because that's the way we're going to use them. We want to know how they feel. And remember, the most harmonious one, everybody pretty much said that, and that's the way our music has evolved, really. But there's some physical reasons for it too. Is the third. The third is like the most harmonious sound. Just has a nice sound to it. Again, just to describe how we usually do in music, and I think most everybody had these feelings. Seconds are close. Seconds by themselves, they sound too close. Fourths and fifths sound very open. They sound like there's not anything really filling in the sound. But thirds and sixths, because they happen to be the same thing, but especially just remember this, thirds sound good. That harmonious sound. Let's just listen to that. Let's measure 4. Let's listen to that third there. Okay, that's that harmony sound. And so for most of what we do in harmony, we're looking to create thirds, and we'll talk about that today. All right, so we have described the scale degrees, and then this is intervals. Okay, the next thing we want to describe are, let me see if I can make it big again, because this is what we're really talking about today, chords. And usually that means a combination of 3 or more notes. Okay. And what we learned last time is that you build them. If I'm going to build a chord on do, right? First, I will put do. I don't want to put re right next to it. Not yet anyways. Because what happens when you have a second? What happens when you have that interval? When it's very close, they kind of jar against each other, right? So instead, I skip re and I go to mi. And then again, I'm going to skip fa. And so I'll end up with sol. Okay. And what do we have? What do we have in this chord? Do, mi, sol. Matter of fact, this is why they are the 3 most important notes. And as we learned last time then, what does every song end with? So let's go through just a few more like we did last time. Pick a song, any song. Why did it take so long? A well-known song, well-known hymn's probably good. Then we know that it'll have normal harmony.
Amazing Grace.
Okay, Amazing Grace. And here we go. Amazing. So we want to skip to the, actually, we did this last time. We did look at the first. Usually the first chord will be a 1. Okay. And so look at the bass. That's usually your cue as to which one we're working with. We have, what do we have in the bass?
Do.
Do. And then we have do repeated here. And then what do we have up here?
Mi and so.
So this is a four-voice harmony of singing that chord, do, mi, so, right? And then by the time we get to the end,
bright shall we no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
what's in the bass? If I can get that red line out of the way, I don't know how.
Do.
Do is in the bass, right? And then we have do. And actually we have do 3 times, right? And the only note besides do is what?
Mi.
Mi. Okay? So what we learned last time is that you can leave this note out, the sol, and if you just hear do, mi, it will give you the sound of that chord. As long as you have what we call the root and the third, it will give you the sound of that chord. So a lot of songs do end just with the do, mi, but the full chord would be do, mi, so. So then if I were to make a chord based on re, it would be re. I would skip over mi and then go to fa, skip over sol and go to la. So every time each one of these chords is going to skip over notes. And we want to really work on memorizing these. They're going to be super important. Okay. Almost done with that one. Let's see. There we go. And we are back to do, mi, so. So these are a couple ways to look at it. Now this one, the names we're going to give the chords have to do, we write it as Roman numerals in music. So that's called the 1 chord. This is called the 2 chord. And you remember why we put some of them with small letters?
They're minor.
They're minor, right? And we'll go back and listen to them in just a second. And then here's the 4. So notice these are chords, combination of notes that are based on the scale. So if you look carefully here, and this one is actually that. I still have to find the right way to write this down, but we'll just put that for now. All right, so that means diminished. And then we're right back to the 1, right? That's where we started. So if you look down at the root, we call it, the beginning of each one of these chords, you see the scale, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So let's listen to it again. Let's go back to what we looked at last time and actually look at these chords. So we'll start with chord number 1, 2, more of a sad, dramatic sound on those, then 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1. Okay? And so what we did here is we learned how to build a chord. Do, mi, so. Right? By skipping notes. Do, mi, so. And that's what I want to do again today. I want us to build some chords. We're going to start off building them. I want you to be ready to think in your mind how to build them. We're basically going to do the same thing we've done already. Let's see. First, let me give you one other bit of vocabulary. Okay, combination of 3 or more notes, and the basic chords are in thirds, and this is what it's going to look like. Root, third, fifth. And I'll show you what that means in just a second. So I want you to memorize this. Root, third, and fifth. Okay? Root, third, fifth. Keep this in mind. Root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth, root, third, fifth. All right. So let's go to something brand new here, and we're going to build these chords together just like we did last time. So help me out. If I were to start a chord with do, what would be the next note?
Me.
Yeah, you skip over a note. Now, since we're starting on do, we call that building the chord on do. That is our root. That's what we're starting with. And then we go up a third. And so that's where you get the mi. What would you go to next?
Sol.
Yeah, you skip over fa and go to sol. And this is called the fifth. So the reason why is we started on do, right? And then we went up past the second to the third. And then we went past the fourth to the fifth. So if you looked at between do and mi, that's a third. And between do and sol, that's a fifth. So this is what that means when I give you this vocabulary. Root, third, fifth. We got to know this vocabulary. Root, third, fifth. This is the root. It's the note that we're building on. Then we have the third. And then we have the fifth. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? Let's build the next one. If the root is re, then what's the third?
Fa.
Fa. And the fifth is
La.
la. So we're skipping as we go. Re, skip mi, fa, skip so, la. And this is still called, the root is re. That's where we started. That's what we're building. So it's root, third, fifth. Okay? Next one, if I were to start on mi, that's the root. And the third is what?
Sol.
Sol. And the fifth is
T.
T. Okay? Root, third, fifth. If I were to start on fa, now fa is the root. That's where we're starting to build. Fa, then
La.
la, there's the third, and
Do.
do. That's root, third, fifth. Okay, if I were to start on sol. So you got sol as the root, you skip over la, and then you get to
T.
T, okay? And then skip over, so that's the third, root, third, and then you skip over do. What do you get next?
Re.
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 Okay? So what I want us to see is that the note you start with, we call it building the chord. That's called the root. And then above it, you've got the third and the fifth. Every chord that we're working with now, basic chords, will have a root, third, fifth. Root, third, fifth. Okay? And the reason we told you to watch the bass is usually the root will be in the bass. So even if it's far removed from what's going on up here, you look at the root, the bass usually will tell you what the root of the chord is. It's a cheat, really. It's a way to almost always tell you what the chord is when you're talking about basic harmony, which is what most hymns are, is very basic harmony. So again, like notice it's way down here, but that's the root, right? That's what it's based on. Okay. Also, one other thing we looked at last time that I'll just remind everybody is that you can flip your chords around. So the one is do, mi, sol, but that can come in any order. It could be do, mi, sol. It could be do, mi, sol, way over there. See that? Right? Do, mi, sol. It could be mi, so, do. Right? Everything I'm doing here, it's all the same notes, right? So what we learned last time, let me find out what measure that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Measure 13 is where I'm going to start. All these are possible combinations of the one chord. So it's all do, mi, so. Maybe it's measure 14. Okay, my computer gets a little wavy when it makes these big chords. I don't know why. Do you guys hear it too? But hopefully you can still hear the good sound to it. So no matter how we space it out, it's all the same chord. It's all do, mi, so. It's just in different ways that we're hearing it, right? Everybody got that? Okay, and then the final example here that I gave is, notice this one, we left out sol. We only have the do's and the mi. And it's going to sound pretty full because it gives you that sound. But you're going to notice after that when you fill in the sol, it might sound even more full. Okay? So that's two ways that you might see something written at the end. Either do, mi, sol, or possibly having the sol left out and just do, mi. It will still give us that feeling of finality. So we're adding some stuff plus reviewing a lot. Let me play you a song here. I'm going to go to YouTube and look up my channel. There's a few of me. That's a quick way to find my channel. And I want to find this video. Black with white letters. Okay, here we go. Listen to this song.
There's a happy
And see what the harmony sounds like to you. Just give an idea of what the harmony sounds like in general.
I can't think of anything that could ever fill my heart like you. There's a happiness inside that I never could find without you. I feel your loving care and it follows everywhere I go. Oh Lord, I'm so happy to be yours. No one else could fill my heart like you.
How would you describe that harmony? It's not normal church hymn harmony. So how would you describe it?
I don't know. It sounds really close to me.
Wow.
I don't know.
That is wonderful. That's exactly the word we're looking for.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so musically, we refer to these as close harmonies. And you might even say they're a little jazzy. It's not the rhythm that's jazzy, right? It's not I can't think of anything. It's not that. but the rhythms, I'm sorry, not the rhythms, the chords are the kind that we sometimes find in jazz. And so because jazz and some other harmonies are about adding a lot of notes. And for just a second, I'm going to fly ahead to some advanced stuff to bring us back to really standard harmony to help you understand it. So if we take a look, let's say at this chord right here. This chord is almost that do, mi, sol. We have do, mi, sol. Can everybody see the shapes enough? I don't know if we're big enough. Are the shapes a little small?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, let me see if I can make that any bigger. Move this out of the way. Come on here. Okay, let's try this. Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
That help? Okay. So right here we have do, mi, so, but we also have this. What is that?
Oh, that's a T. And see, I thought it was a me from far
Ice
away.
cream cone, right? The cone.
Uh-huh.
That's a T. So what we actually have here is we have, let's go back to intervals. Take me a little time to get there. We have this interval, the evil interval. You remember that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Measure 8. Let's hear it. That's okay. It's measure 9. Or this one, right? You have that in there. But the trick is if I add some thirds to this and make it, what I just did is I took those notes and I put pretty things in between. Thirds sound nice. And now we get this beautiful sounding chord. Ah. So I went from this to this. And it's a matter of how you put it together. Really quick, let's take a look at this one here. These two really close, right? But if I go ahead and put in the do, mi, sol, I can get a prettier sounding. All right. And what that is called, it's called a seventh. And I'm going to teach you how to make sevenths today. We're going to start with the fancier ones, just because that's the way to learn how to build these. And then I'll get to the most important one that we use in music all the time. So this is the 1 chord. Then the next one, this is the 2 chord, the 3 chord. Does everybody see how we're getting those? Okay. And for now, we just went up to the 5. Okay. So on the 1 chord, do is my root. Then I have the 3rd. Then I have the 5th. And then in these fancy chords, we will also add the 7th. Okay, so I'm building all these notes on top of each other. For the root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Let me do that here. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. And a funny thing about sevenths is, once you get to the top note, a 7th is the same as a 2nd. It's almost, so if you took do and went down, you would get T, right? That's what you're going to get on the top now. If I took re and went down, I would get do. That's what I'm going to get on the top. That's why it's called close harmony. Sounds very close. So let's listen to these. All right, jazzy, right? And just want us to see how we're building these. Can you see that we're building them all on thirds? And you can actually, another way to tell it is, look, these are all on lines, right? Line, 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 line. That tells us we're skipping over all the space notes. This is space, 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 space. All the notes are spaces. That tells us we're skipping over all the line notes. It's very visual. You can see it. These are all on lines. These are all on spaces. Okay? That's when you can tell we're working with thirds. We're skipping over notes. The 5 is unique. So here we have the root. And I want to walk through this slowly because I want us really to memorize this. What is the root of the 5?
Sol.
Sol. Okay, because that's the 5th note of the scale. 5, 5. So 5 is starting with sol, and then we go up to what?
T.
T. Okay. That's the third, and then the fifth is
Ray.
Ray. What is the seventh? We have to skip over one more note. So Ray, skip over me, and what are we going to get?
Sol again.
You skipped over
Fa.
2. So
Oh,
it's Ray, skip over me, yeah, and you want to know this scale really good, that will help. And we have Fa. Okay? Now, just the way these happen to be spaced out, we won't get too much into it right now. But the way these are spaced out, it gives us a unique sound and some very unique properties. So I want you to memorize these. You got to memorize these. Sol, Ti, Re, Fa. Sol, Ti, Re, Fa. Okay, we got that? Sol, Ti, Re, Fa. Sol, Ti, Re, Fa. Another way to remember it is just do that. Do you have Do, Mi, So memorized? What's the one? Do, Mi, So. Okay, you got that memorized. Okay, so get to the point where every time you say the 5, that's So, Ti, Re, Fa. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you this really quick. Actually, when we do this, then we put 7 on it. So I'm going to write this right here on the 5. This is actually what we call a 5, 7. Okay, 5, 7. All these I could put 7s on too. Let me go down here and draw this again. Yes, question?
Yeah. So are these called? Is that chord called a fifth, or is it called a 5?
It's called a 5. And so that's why we're talking the vocabulary. Because yes, it can get confusing, right? That's the 5th chord or whatever. So we just, in music, we call it the 5.
Okay.
And every
Cool.
once in a while, we'll have a conversation where we're like, oh, we're playing these notes and I played the 5, meaning sol, every once in a while. But usually when a musician says the 5, they're talking about the chord, the combination.
Okay.
And that's why when we write the Roman numerals, that's what we always mean. We're talking about the chord. Okay?
Okay.
And let me just show you this again really quick. If I were to not have the 7th in there, if the 7th were not there, then this chord would be called just the 5. Like that. Okay? But if I do add the 7th onto it, then we write it out as 5, 7. Make sense? Because a regular chord is just root, third, fifth. But what we're learning today is that you can also add a 7th. Okay? Let me write this out again down here. I'll copy it. And we will notice some amazing things about this chord. This chord is so useful. All right? Let's go back to our knowledge of what to do with melodies. Does this look familiar? Okay, and everything we learn, you got to really get used to it. Hopefully you got used to it over the last 8 weeks. Do, mi, sol. So where does T want to go to?
Do.
Do. Where does La want to go to?
So.
Do. Okay, where does Fa want to go to?
Mi.
And where does Re want to go to?
Mi or Do.
Right in between, okay? Again, all this is basic. We spent a lot of time going over this, so you will not get harmony if you don't get this. But if you do get this, then harmony, all of a sudden it makes sense. It works together, okay? One last one that I forgot to put on here. Where does sol want to go to? Do you remember this?
Do.
That's right, because sol is as far away as you can get from do. So it wants to go back to do, either down here, so, do, or so, do, right? We learned all that in melody writing. We learned that all these notes are tugging somewhere, okay? And then as we said, harmony is basically like melody blown up, like that much stronger. So let's take a look at this beautiful chord here, this 5/7. All right. In the next measure, I'm going to take the sol and I'm going to keep it there. But what about the mi? Where does mi want to go to? Oh, I said it wrong. I'm so sorry. No wonder everybody's confused. Where does T want to go to? Sorry.
Do.
Yes, I was so wrong. Okay, where does T want to go to? Do. What about, that's a very strong one, going from T to do. What about Fa? Where does Fa want to go to?
Me?
Mi. Okay. And what I'm going to do with the re is it could go to either one, but usually we'll have it go to do. We do not want to double the mi. We talked about that before. So it kind of disappears. And listen to what happens between these two measures. Oops, let me take it to measure 7. There we go. Okay, so what happened? If you just listen to that first chord, is that the end? No. Just like melody, right? If you're on a fa, is that the end? If you're on a T, is that the end? No, it wants to go somewhere. And so we learned where it wants to go. And now in harmony, in the 5/7, we have all these notes that want to go somewhere. And they do. It's perfect to bring us back to, do you recognize this chord? Do you know what chord this is here?
Is that the one?
That's the one, do, mi, so, right? Remember, different ways to put it, but do, mi, so. Now let's put the bass in here. So if I were to put the bass in here, what is the root of our 5/7? And let me go ahead and write the 1 in there because you said that, and that is correct. So let's put the 1 here. We're going from 5/7 to 1. Let's put the bass in. What is the root of this chord?
Sol.
What are we building it on? Sol, right? So I'll put a sol here. Actually, I'll probably put it really low. You could put it either low or higher, either one. Okay. And then what is the root of the 1? Do you remember?
Do.
Do, mi, so. Now listen to how good this sounds. Okay. Are we at the end? Yeah, and as a matter of fact, we didn't even put do in the soprano, but still, like, remember we mentioned that some songs, they don't always end with do in the soprano, but even so, usually we'll have this do down here in the bass. We'll have all these notes resolve. Remember, that's what we called it? And so this tells you, coming up on the end, right there. Okay? And all the other harmony is basically gonna revolve around this. This is how everything ends, almost everything. So I know we spent about an hour on this, but this is how everything ends. And if you understand how this works, then you can make all the rest of them work. So let's look at some songs. Name a song. Any song, and we won't have to do ones like this. Let's see. Let me make this a little smaller. Okay.
I have a
Question.
So when you say that's how most songs end, is that the 5/7
Yes.
to the 1, or is it sometimes just 5 to 1?
It can be the 5/1, but the 5/1. So the thing that the 5/1 is lacking. Let's just go back and take a look real quick. What's the 7? The 7 is the very top note. It's a fa, right? So it would still work, and let's just do that here. 5/1 sounds very nice. Oops, didn't want to do that. Okay, I got rid of the 7th, so let's hear what it sounds like. Very nice sound. But this is the one chord that it's common in regular old style writing to add the 7th. And it gives it that much more of a tug. You get your fa mi in it also. Okay? And you know what? It's good we brought back here because I want to mention one other little detail. It's possible to sometimes, you know, we said that sometimes you don't have all the notes. When it comes to the 5/7, sometimes it's possible to only have a few of the notes. Like, let me give an example here. Okay, whoops, let's see. Let me get a me in there somewhere. So let's look at these two here. Okay, and right here you see how we only have sol and ti. We're missing one note, but you still get that feeling as long as you have the root and the third. But then one other very unique thing, the last thing I want to tell you about 7th chords is sometimes you can only have the root and the 7th, and it will still sound good enough that it will sound like that 5/7. Because this rub here is so strong, the rub between the 5 and the 4, we call it that's a really strong rub. And notice again, remember what did I say is the cheating way? What's the cheating way to tell what this is? How do you cheat? Always look where?
At the base.
At the base. Anytime you have so do, you're talking about 5/1. So sol is chord number 5. Do is chord number 1. All right? Does that make sense? That was a lot, but this is it. This is everything. Once you get this, you get pretty much the rest fast. This is the most important. So let's do some songs. Back to Amazing Grace.
Amen. All last days to sing God's praise than when we first
B. What's next? Right?
God.
So let's analyze. First, let's cheat. What's in the bass?
Sol.
So, and then the last note is
Do.
do. So do. Okay? Then if we were going to analyze a little bit, you would find out that this is the 5/7. And I know that's going to take maybe a little time to get used to, but this is sol, ti, re, fa. So ti re fa. So ti re fa. So ti re fa. So ti re fa. Sometimes that's an easier way to get it. Just think of it as Egyptian or something. I don't know. So ti re fa. I don't know Egyptian, sorry, but that's probably nothing. I hope it's not a bad word or anything. But anyway, so ti re fa. So ti re fa. Okay? And then this chord, what is it? We already saw it. What is it?
1.
1. Okay? Another song. Another song. Quick, quick, quick.
There's a fountain free.
There's fountain free. What chord do we start with? chord do we start with?
1.
Do mi so, do mi so, do mi so, right? What chord is this?
1.
1.
Do mi so, do mi so. What is this chord?
5.
It's a 5. It does not have the fa. It's not so ti re fa, but it's so ti re. So ti re. So ti re. Okay? So ti re. What chord is this one?
5.
5.
5. So ti re. Okay? And so a lot of these all throughout. So let's go to the end. Oh, slow down on the last chorus. How about that? Fancy. Good way to hear the harmony. What's that one?
5.
It's a 5. So ti re. We don't have the fa there, but so ti re, and then it goes to
1.
1. Okay, do mi so. If you're not catching it, what's the cheat? What do you always look for at the end? In the bass? So,
Root.
do. So, do. 5-1. The ending. Just about everything. By the way, just while we're there, fountain is a minor chord. See if you can hear the difference. That's a 6 chord right there. Okay? Just things that you're going to start noticing as you watch the bass. The bass is your cheat code. Okay? One more song and then we'll take a break. One more.
I'll fly away.
Okay. Some glad morning. All right.
Some glad morning.
Okay, watch this. What chord is this?
1.
Do mi so. What chord is this?
Same one.
Do mi so. What chord is this?
1.
Do mi so. What chord is this?
1.
So what you have is you have notes moving around, but the harmony is the same. It's the same chord for all 4 of those notes, and actually this one too.
Some glad morning.
And once again, let's cheat. Where would you get the idea that that's what it's going to be?
The bass.
The bass. What is the bass? 1, 1, 1, 1. Right? All this stuff is moving around, but 1, 1, 1, 1. That's telling us it's the one. All right, let's go to the end.
And I'll fly away, fly away, fly away.
Okay, and some interesting things happen here, but let's just go right here. Bass, 5, 1. So, do. What chord do we have here?
5, 7.
That's with the 7, because we've got so, ti, re, fa. You see the fa there? And where does fa want to go? I see a fa right here. Where does it want to go?
Me.
Look what happens. See?
Mhm.
It moves to the mi. Where does ti want to go?
Do.
Do.
Look what happens. It moves to the do. So there are reasons that all these things happen, and reasons that it sounds good, and reasons that it's just beautiful, right? There's reasons. So it probably takes some concentration to catch all that. Again, if you didn't catch it all, look at the bass. That's going to be our cheat code all the way through. Look at the bass, look at the bass. And the main thing we learned today was so, do. Okay? So what we're going to be doing, I'll mention part of the homework and then we'll see how much further we go. But last time the homework was, let me get one person who did their homework. And by the way, I've heard I might be giving grades for Heritage, so we need to talk about grades. Maybe I'll send an email about that or something. But let's just go to Brother Benjamin. One person got an A this week. The person who sent me their homework, and look how hard that homework was. Come on, people. Let's get on the ball with this homework. The homework was to do what? Put a do there, right? That was it. Okay. The next part of your homework, and watch what happens. If you turn in your homework on time, then I will do your homework for you. Watch this, because that's what we'll use to experiment on. So the next part of the homework is to take what comes right before it and figure out where you're going to put your soul. And already I see a little problem because it's not letting me go straight to that spot. So I think we're going to do just a little bit more on the homework. I'm going to do this.
You just put in a rest, I guess.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, I'm not sure that would be easy for everybody. So I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to put a note for, we're going to do this later on for each one. But the last note, ready for a fancy word? Penultimate. You guys know that word? I think we use it more in Spanish. It sounds fancy in English. But what does penultimate mean? Do you know what that means?
Second to last.
Second to last, next to last, right? Not the last. What's the last note all the time in general?
Do.
Do. In the harmony we're working with, right? Do. The penultimate, the note right before it in the bass is going to be so, right? And I suggest you do the low so. We'll talk about why, but I suggest you go ahead and do the low one. So let's just listen really quick. A couple things that I've learned. When you want to play, if you just press that, you'll only hear the top line. We learned that last time on MuseScore, things I'm learning. Okay, if you want to hear both lines, click and then shift click so you have both lines covered. Now we'll hear both lines. All right, and actually I would do this. We'll talk about it why later, but let's listen to it again. All right, and now we have harmony. And what does the next to the last note do? Prepares us for this, right? What chord would this be? If this is the one, what chord would this be?
5.
5. It's either a 5 or a 5/7, and we are going to fill it in. We have 2 other voices to fill in, right? And so that's the next part of our harmony. We're going to fill that in a way that we'll fill it in here and here in a way that it makes sense, puts it together. All right? That was a lot. That was a lot to get, but that's it. If you get that, that's it. From there, all the other chords fall into place. They make sense. This is the key because this is how everything ends. Everything goes to the 5 and then back to the 1. That's the key. Any last questions before we have a break? Okay. When we come back then, I'm going to give you the full homework and we'll listen to a lot of songs and we'll have some fun with it. Okay? So let's come back in about 10 minutes, all right? All right. Happy break. See you in a little bit.